So the first thing that's really useful when you're dealing with code is the console. Remember this guy that we put down here? We haven't done anything with it yet. That's all right. You usually want these buttons to be basically like they are here. Clear on play has been clicked, so it looks different than the others. I usually leave the rest of these alone. What that means is it's going to clear out all these console messages as soon as you hit play. You'll see why that's useful in just a minute. So you've got three different kinds of things. You've got regular debug statements, you've got warnings, and you've got errors. You've got errors in your code. This is where they're going to show up as a big red 2 right here. And they're going to show up over here, and you will not be able to hit play until you get those resolved. So with that said, we've got our scripts folder right here. I'm going to right click and I'm going to create a C# script called first script. You can call it whatever you want. All right, not sure what that error message is. Sometimes GUI errors show up. Nothing to worry about. I'm going to clear. So take a minute and look and make sure that the name here matches the name there, which is public class first script. Capitalization and everything. It has to be exactly the same. If it is not, you will have problems and you will regret it. So now I'm going to double click and that should open up our Visual Studio editor. If you're using Unity 2020, it may open, or if you're using a different version of Unity, it may open a different editor. I think JetBrains Rider is included now, but doesn't really matter. They'll all work more or less the same. I'm going to double click and be right back. So here we are. We are in the editor. Unity by default will put in two things for you. Start is called before the first frame update. Update is called once per frame. Anything in here runs a lot and fast. If you put Debug.Log statements in here, it will slow down your whole game. But sometimes you need that, but don't worry about update for now. We'll get to that later. Very useful for other things too, like grabbing user input, stuff like that. We'll get into that shortly. For now, we're going to start in start, which is called before the first frame update. Basically, it happens at the beginning. I'm going to type in debug, and IntelliSense is adding it in there. I'm going to Debug.Log and say the script has started. Now I'm going to move over. See that little red squiggly there? That tells me that there's a semicolon expected. You need a semicolon at the end of not every line. You do not want a semicolon at the end of every line. Think of it as the period at the end of a sentence. You want a semicolon at the end of many lines, most lines even. But if you put a semicolon after a conditional and if statement, which we'll get into in a bit, it's not going to work like you expect at all. And thankfully, in this day and age, the code editors will generally tell you when there is something like that missing. Now, if you put it at the end of an if statement, that's not incorrect. It's not missing. It's just, well, it's not going to throw an error. It is incorrect. It's not going to throw an error. It's not going to warn you. It's just not going to work the way it should. But I will tell you and explain where most of the semicolons should go, at least in what we're doing here. So with that line typed in, the little yellow there and the star here both tell me that I have not saved. So I'm going to File, and I'm going to Save. Then I'm going to go back to Unity. Now back in Unity, it's compiling, and it's compiled. Now if I run it, nothing's going to happen. It's not going to show up down here. Why is that? That's because this script is only in the project. It is not in the scene yet. I'm going to make an empty game object. I'm going to call this game manager. I'm going to put it at 000. I'm going to drag it to the top just because that's kind of how I like to arrange my scenes. And I'm going to take this script and drag it over here. Now you might think it looks like we just made and then added our own component, and you would be completely correct. Just like any other component, you can remove it, you can add it, you can have other things here. That's kind of the beauty of Unity. This is a component. This is also a component. It's one we made, but it's still a component. Now, since this is attached to something in the scene, I'm going to go to File and Save, and when we hit play, watch the debug log. It's going to give us a note that we put in. Watch down here. Boom. The script has started. And if we click on this once, it's going to give us the debug output. It's going to give us what made that output, the Unity Engine Debug.Log call, and it's going to tell us where. First script is the name of the script. It's in the start method, and it is, here's the path and the line of that script, line 10. Watch this. We double click this, it's going to go right there, and sure enough, line 10. If we add another one, this is line 11. And I go to the end and I hit the semicolon and I Control or Command S to save, switch back, let it compile for a moment, and I come out of play mode. Because we've got clear on play, this will clear away, or you can click to clear it. I hit play, and now we're going to get two statements. The script has started from line 10. This is line 11 from line 11. Sure enough. Congratulations! You have done the Unity equivalent of Hello World. You have started your programming journey. It's about to get a lot cooler. Hang in there. We'll be right back.